And it's usually the same sign in. But we will, but those planning and development meetings, we can help decide how we're going to be following up and how much time we can devote to follow up from today's meeting, the big room and the small group meetings. And so planning and development is a way to generate new ideas for discussion in the big group, but also to sort of think through an agenda for the next meeting. If you're not available for planning and development meetings, then that's feedback and suggestions you can always send in an email to me and Lynn. So with that, I want to turn it to Lynn to kind of give more of a run of show for the evening. And again, we'll all see each other in the big group at the end of the meeting for a few announcements.
Thank you, Megan, for giving us some context as to how we're here today with two meetings at the same time. So this is a very tricky thing we're trying to pull off today, and just like Megan asked, we ask for your grace, as you know, we may have technical difficulties along the way, even though we practiced it. But the meeting, just to clarify, the small group meetings are sequential, meaning that we'll have small meetings, you know, one meeting, and then you go back to the main group, and then meeting the group 2 goes into the small group. That way we're meeting both of the needs of the larger group discussion of the needs assessment, and then the smaller group of talking with Katie and Christina. I'll turn over to to Sally a little bit in terms of more instructions on a larger room, but I wanted to clarify that, you know, the small group discussions, it is a discussion, so they're sort of like built-in Q&A in there, and we're designing it so that there should be sufficient time with Katie and Christina to fully talk about what we're presenting. It's not designed so that when you leave the small group, you're bringing that conversation into the larger group. So there are two kind of separate things that we're parallel and separate things that we're doing. As we wrap up later in the evening, we'll look forward to future meetings, and there may be extensions of discussion perhaps, and the next steps will be discussed for both parts, for the large group and the small groups, and we'll talk about next steps at the end of the meeting today. Okay. So with that, let me turn over to Sally to walk us through some of the IT specificity in terms of how to engage in the Zoom board in the large group.
Okay, so yes, when Kirsten sorts you all into your breakout, well, one group at a time into your breakout rooms, and then some of us are going to remain here, you'll see a shared screen, and it's just going to look plain and white at the beginning. It's called a Zoom board or whiteboard, and it works kind of like a whiteboard in a real room. You can pretend we're all together. And depending which device you're on, as soon as I share it, you might automatically see the tools, but most Windows devices, you have to click, is it settings or security? Sorry. I apologize. So you'll see, yeah, annotate is what you're looking for. You're going to click on annotate, and then you too will be able to draw, write and type on the whiteboard, and second things that other people type. I can see who's typing while they are typing. However, then when you're done typing, it doesn't save. So if you want to put your initials, you can, but if you feel like you're speaking for the universe, you can channel that. We have very a good plan to catch with me doing screenshots and downloading images of the whiteboard as it goes, so we don't lose anyone's comments. If you're not comfortable doing that tool to annotate or typing text, go ahead and throw it in the chat and someone will try and grab it for you. If not, just private message, or I'm a co-host, you should be able to send me a message and I will do my best to help you. I have a Mac, so I will hopefully be seeing everything all at once on my two devices. And with that, did I get it all, guys? I think I did. All right, cool.
Yes, but Megan, before we transition, I wonder if we should do a quick round of introductions, as we have at least one new member here with us for the first time.
That sounds great. And maybe we can do that as quickly as possible by the person who's going, calling on or ping-ponging, popcorning to the next person. So
Perfect.
I'm Megan Mack, chair and community member, and I will pick Siobhan.
Good evening. I'm Siobhan Grayson, staff.
You muted yourself, Siobhan.
Judy, did everybody hear that
That's
before
Judy. Right.
Okay,
Judy?
I'm Judy Haddon. I'm a community member of the partnership and have been part of the Youth Mental Health and Wellness Committee since I guess we began that committee and we saw the need. And I'm also a member of the APS Student Services Advisory Committee and have co-chaired that in the past. And I'll go to Alicia.
Good evening, everyone. Alicia Guajardo. I am a community member and chair of the Youth Mental Health and Wellness Committee of the partnership. And as Judy, similar, I also serve on the Student Services Advisory Committee and and I am a former chair of that group as well. Sorry, I forgot. Anne O'Brien.
Hi, I'm Ann O'Brien. I'm a community member. I'm a past chair of the partnership, and I will call on Tabitha.
Good evening, everyone. Tabitha Kelly, Child and Family Services Division Director. She, her pronouns, and I will call on Anita.
I had a feeling you would. I'm Anita Friedman. I'm the director of the Department of Human Services. She, her pronouns. And I'll call on Lynn.
Hey, thank you. Hi, I'm Lynn Ngay, he, him, his pronouns. I'm the prevention director and the interim partnership liaison or coordinator. And I will call on Katie.
Good evening. I'm Katie Crystal, the Vice Chair of the County Board and a longstanding County Board liaison to the Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families. I will call on Kateri.
Hi, y'all. I'm Kateri. I am a community member, and I will call on John.
I'm John Amelin. I have been a partnership member for a long time. I'm not at the moment. I'm with the Partnership Foundation and the Arlington Community Foundation. I'll call on Kirsten.
Hi, I'm Kirsten Fuller. I am a prevention specialist under Lynn, and I will call on Grace. Did you go?
I'm Grace Wagner, data specialist with APS and on Lynn's team partnership. I will call on Dina.
Hi, so this is my first meeting with you guys. It's good to be here. I'm Dina Little. I am with libraries. I'm the Assistant Chief of Public Services there, and I oversee youth services. So yeah, and I will call on, I'm looking at new faces and trying to figure out who hasn't been called. I think Kim from DPR.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Baldini, Parks and Recreation Youth Services Section Leader. And I think Dave, you haven't been called yet, right?
Say Dave. Dave, okay. I am Dave. Dave Carlson. I'm a community member of the partnership since 2012. And I will call on Linda Henderson.
Thanks, Dave. Linda Henderson, I'm a former member and former chair of the partnership. I'm on the Partnership Foundation, and I will call on Rick.
I knew it would be me. I'm Rick Strovac. I work in the juvenile court in the court services unit. And I believe everyone's been called, but maybe not Sally. Have you been called, Sally? Sally Levante.
Sorry, I thought I already went. I'm Sally.
No, I think we've run out. Anybody else? Chris? No?
Laura. Laura Newton.
Laura Newton. There she is on my screen. Laura.
Well, thank you, Rick. I'm Laura Newton from APS, and I'm the Director of Student Services. And I will go with Christina.
You are Dr. Laura Newton. Let's be real here. All your titles, because you are awesome. I'm Christina Diaz Torres. I am a school board member and not long-standing, but I have been the liaison to the partnership since I joined the board in January. And it is a pleasure to be with you all today. And I think we actually have now gone around and everyone has introduced themselves, correct? Just confirming. Okay, great.
Did Megan get her turn?
I did, thank you. But I unmuted the wrong one, I'm so sorry. There we go. So I think we kick it off and hopefully we can adjust the time so that everybody has the same amount of time, and you should be getting an invitation to click on for your breakout room.
So 9 remain, 10 remain unassigned. We have another job to do, and I'm going to hand it over to Siobhan, but first I'm going to share my screen with the questions. So give me just one moment while my 2 machines, Mac and Windows, talk to one another. It's like these 2 computers can get along. Why can't everyone? All right, give me one more minute. We're going to have a blue box. We're going to have a purple box. And we're going to have, I tried to do this in advance, but every time I left it, it went away. I have a purple box. And if you're seeing faces on one side or the other and are having a hard time hiding one, I'm going to try and move it all the way to the left. But just, yeah, wave at me and say, Sally, I can't see anything. Your thing isn't working. We're going to have a black box. Come on, black box. There you go. All right. And these boxes are going to hold questions, which I'm going to copy from my notes. And they are, I'm also going to read them. What services, resources are available for preschoolers in our county? Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not centered. Yeah, thanks.
All right, let me squish it back into that box. All right. Oh, before I start going off on that, does everyone see where they can choose annotate?
No.
Up where it says you're viewing Sally Clark's Labonte screen, it says view options. If you hit that drop down, it should offer you annotate. Click on annotate, and then there's going to be a panel of various things that you're going to be able to do. You'll be able to choose text to write in, or you can choose the stamp, which if you agree with somebody says and you don't want to repeat it, then you can use a star or a heart or whatever you'd like to indicate that that's something that that you can co-sign on.
So we're not talking, we're writing?
No, you can talk as well.
Backup.
That's not, yeah, let's we're
I don't think I can write it.
Yeah.
Should we start writing or wait till all the?
Yeah, well, you can start if your mind is already full, please start writing. And Ann O'Brien is also co-chairing, co-facilitating tonight. So both of us are going to be looking at what's being presented in the boxes, and we may ask people to explore that a little bit more verbally with us, or if there are questions that people want to pose, based on some of the information that will be listed, please feel free to do so.
But you really want us to write in the services and resources.
Yeah, the
and-
ones that either you are a part of, you know of, or that intersect with the question in a way that may not seem like it fits, but definitely there's an intersectionality to what's being presented.
Okay.
And did you want to add to that? Does that kind of sum up where we are?
Yeah, I think that sums up where we are, and yeah, hopeful that some of the things that you're able to share on the document will lead to some conversation.
So once again, I'll just read them out. What services, resources are available for preschoolers in our county? We've got childcare already listed. What other resources are needed for childcare? What is needed? And as you think through that, whether it's physical location, funding, things like that, staff, what are ideas to engage APCYF from advocacy to research to action? And those are pretty definite steps. So if you could move through them and you know, list something about action, research, and then an action, that would be what we're looking for. Does that make sense to everybody?
And I will say, I don't know if for the second box in particular, you know, there needs to be a focus solely on childcare. I think if there were other needs for young children that you'd want to share, you know, I don't mental health needs or speech therapy needs, or I don't know what these needs are. We are hoping you will tell us some of these needs. You know, listing those as well. And again, with a in some way a focus on equity and disparities. What are some of the resources that we can use at this age group to level the playing field for kids as they enter their school years?
Are you guys having a problem with the box like jumping around when you start? Typing in
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to figure out if I have to write inside the box, but when anyway.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I can space your boxes out. Think about like if we were in a room, someone might be writing on a, you know, big Post-it board. So you would talk while we were doing that. This is just trying to capture that in an additional way. So don't, if you don't like it, that's okay. You can talk.
And as you're thinking about things, and if talking is your preferred mode of operation, then please do that. And Sally will take as copious as notes as possible inside the box that corresponds to your question. But don't feel any pressure to have to maneuver these boxes if that's just not going to be helpful for you.
I'll take advantage of the talking if that's okay.
Yeah, me too.
Whatever resources are needed, my answer is support for the unlicensed and informal childcare.
I like that one too.
Yeah.
Red screen.
And I think also kind of along with that is support for parents who maybe don't have their children in any kind of childcare. Parents who are the primary caregivers, how are they, what supports are available for them and helping their children progress?
I would include that in what I was suggesting. I would include anybody taking care of a kid other than a formal institution that's licensed. School or licensed childcare, all the rest could be siblings, parents, grandparents, neighbors, who knows? And I think they need support.
as I was doing some looking at the time, I mean, there are large, there are a number of resources, whether they, we never know. Some I know attract a lot of families and some I don't know, but I want a chance, if we can, to add to this, later after I do a little bit more research. Like, I don't know anything about community peer pre-kindergarten programs. That I think that's an APS program, a pre-K program. And do you know about that? Neither.
No.
So, and I will say there is an early childhood advisory committee. Not only is there a department or an area of APS, but there's an advisory committee that will be a really good resource also. I didn't get a chance to look at their reports from the last couple of years, but it's the part of the advisory ACTL, Advisory Council on Teaching and Learning, used to be ACI. And there's a variety of advisory committees, and one of them is on early childhood. And I think we can learn a lot from them.
Anita, after you're done giving your point, I believe you're supposed to be in the smaller group. So
I am?
Yes, so go ahead and sign you, but I want to make sure that you say everything that you want to say first, and then just let me know and I'll send you over.
And you can come back.
Hold on a minute. I'm just typing one last thing. I think we actually have to talk to parents who are disenfranchised, not just parents who are on advisory committees, because we know in Arlington, sorry, I'm having trouble with this typing function, that the commissions and the advisory committees that we have are typically overrepresented with people who are higher income and white. And I don't think it's necessarily balanced in terms of engaging families who are lower income or people of color.
Anita, I would say that's true. Maybe that could be true, but having served on advisory committees for APS for many years, our job is not just to come with our own experience, but to go out and engage with others and to bring more to the table.
Yeah, I hope that's happening, but people who are at the table are usually the decision makers.
Right.
And so there's really, and this is a countywide issue. It's not just related to children.
I get it. I
Schools.
know.
The commissions are overrepresented by white North Arlingtonians. That's a fact.
I know.
You know.
That's why we have to do outreach. That's why people like people. That's why we do it. Some of us, to be the outreach people.
And that's part of the partnership's mission, is that advocacy and action of engaging the community. So I think you might have something there.
You can kick me out now, Kirsten, whatever you want to do.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Hold on one second.
And it is interesting though, kind of to that point that Anita was making about who's at the table. I mean, even in determining what the needs are, we're talking a lot about, well, we aren't specifically, but I could see this going in a conversation. If you're talking about the early childhood committee of APS, I mean, that's really focused on what kids are learning, I think, like what the curriculum is in the preschool programs. And, is that the need that we should be addressing? I mean, they're addressing that need, so I don't think it is, but what other needs are there? Are we talking like, do parents need support, food, diapers, maybe not quite for the preschool crowd? What are the other issues aside from learning that we can address outside of school to get the kids ready for school? I mean, maybe it's something about health in terms of vision screenings or hearing screenings or something like that. I don't know what resources the county has available to address those. I'm sure that they're there. And then the next question, of course, is how do people learn about them?
And do you know if that ECC's Early Childhood Committee has convened since 2019? That was one of the lists that was willed to me in early last February.
No, not since the pandemic began.
Okay, and my dad was dying also in February, so it was my list keeping was pretty crappy. It is one that I have, and I know is Katie's personal interest. So yeah, all right, just making sure I hadn't missed. So yeah, that would definitely be a group to collaborate with.
I have a question, and I apologize if I do not know this answer. With the Early Childhood Advisory Committee, is there a liaison for each specific early childhood program in each school, or no?
I don't know. I've never been on that committee. I don't know. We'd have to learn more. I just didn't want to leave something out where there was a possible resource.
Many years ago, I served on that committee, so I don't know if it's still the same, but it pretty much works the same as like our student services it's, parents mostly that are on the committee, that just have an interest in that. And then you have a staff liaison.
And each staff liaison is represented for each school, or do you know if they cover multiple?
No,
schools?
it's from like the central office.
Understood.
Yeah, kind of like Laura Newton is like at our meeting tonight. Yeah, it would be, obviously the one that's, relevant to the particular committee.
Well, I'm going to say that's something that's needed. And that was why I was asking for clarification. I know that in other schools, they have like an actual liaison for each school, so they can kind of report back some of the concerns and the things that they're seeing in their specific school. So if they don't have that additional representation, perfect.
I mean, a lot of the counseling staff and the principals in the schools where they have, like over at Barcroft, where I think they have I'm not sure if it's Project Family or what's there, but they're getting thoughts from them, from those staff members and parents who live in those neighborhoods and have those programs at their schools. That's another way to, I guess, dig down and find out what's missing, what's needed. And there'd be lots of ways.
Also would be interesting. I will try to type it as I write it, but is a current status update. There was just something I saw nationally, something like 40% fewer students are in preschool now than were pre-pandemic, or some new census data. And what's the condition in Arlington? And then why is that the condition? I mean, we haven't really heard, nationally, you hear a lot of childcare centers closed because as a result of the pandemic. You hear that they're struggling to retain staff. You hear that they're struggling to hire and train staff. Is that the case in Arlington? And if so, then what? But I think it's really hard to use pre-pandemic data when things maybe have changed so much over the past few months.
Alicia, were there I'm trying to think of other community resources that we had when working on the youth mental health and wellness, when we, Kim and I had conversations with all those different groups. They really mostly were community groups and outreach is the best thing to.
Yeah, I can't remember offhand.
Right. But we
And
tried
if-
to reach beyond staff
Yeah,
in schools
absolutely.
and county. Yeah.
Right.
We have 12 overflowing notebooks of Kim's notes.
You have what?
Here. No, overflowing notebooks of Kim's note. I know it's in there somewhere. Everything was saved, so I'm sure I can delve into that and refresh that.
Yeah, well, yeah, Alicia and I have that too. Just don't have it right in my hands right now. Well,
so what's,
go ahead.
well, just I'm like, what would be an appropriate role for the partnership in something like this and addressing these disparities? And again, if we're keeping an equity lens on this, I mean, I don't know if we've necessarily defined this as we're targeting a certain age population. You know, what's something the partnership can do to make change for this group?
Awareness and pointing out needs, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that advocacy piece, how we do that, you know, we can, yeah, that's to be determined, but I think that, and then certainly, you know, what data do we have, you know, that can help support advocacy. I think reaching out to these different groups, again, the formal, not just as Judy was saying earlier, the schools and the ones that we know well, but also these other groups, including like parent groups or, you know, guardian groups, and getting their input. So, you know, we've in the past, we've you know, convened these community engagement, you know, really convened and brought together, excuse me, people into our community engagement events in different ways. And so maybe I think we've done a good job in the past of doing that. Maybe that's something to consider, where we can bring different voices together and help to even maybe help to solution around not just hearing where the gaps are, but help to solution as well.
Okay, I think Kirsten is working on getting the second group started.
I moved quickly.
Yes.
Thank you for that first group. That was awesome.
I got kicked out of both groups, it seems.
We'll take you back, Anita.
Anita, I did note your final point about subject matter expertise. I caught it and I wrote it down.
Okay,
I
thanks.
was gonna say, maybe finish the second half of the phrase, but I think we got the essence.
You know, that we have different expertise that we can share about what's going, the trends, the new developments, the, you know, and to inform practice, priorities. That would have been the end of my sentence.
We got it.
Hey, here we go again.
All right.
All right. Is this our new group? I guess so.
Oh, I think you need to
Katie, are you
teleport
spent-
Christina and me.
Yes, I'm sorry. Hold on one second.
Thanks.
We get to keep you guys.
glad you.
We can keep hanging out, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to tell Anita, you were just needed in both places. You need to look at it like that. All right, I have my
But does this group have a theme? Is it the same group as before? Yes. Oh, I see, okay.
Rick, actually, the theme are the questions. As you guys can see, the boxes have been filled in. Wait a second, hold on. So let's make sure that everybody can access the whiteboard. So if you look at the top, you'll see that you're viewing Sally's screen and it says options next to that. Hit that drop down and hit annotate. And then you're going to have a panel of various things that you will be able to do. You have text that Sally will, if you're having problems centering it, Sally's going to help you do that. There's a stamp that you can co-sign onto something with a heart or with a star or a check mark if you don't want to just fully write it out and repeat it. And then, of course, with the text, you can write in what you'd like. If, in fact, you want to drop something in the chat, Sally's going to try to pull it from the chat and put it on here. Or you can, verbally talk through it and Sally will catch as much as she can in writing. Does that make sense and work for folks?
So
let me just read the questions. Go ahead.
Just a clarification. Linda Henderson and John, are you referring to the one that just left or the one that just went out? I got a message about Linda. You need to be in the other meeting.
Yeah, Linda and
Should be
John
in with
should
the
be
community
in the other
members.
meeting. Yeah.
The one that just
Linda
went
and
out,
John.
correct?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Sorry about that. Continue.
That's actually supposed to be for current commission members. Then the foundation will be the third one. So
We're in the third
okay.
one.
I was going to say you're in the third one. Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you for that, Sally.
Didn't realize. Okay. All right. Well,
I'm in the foundation.
Also on the foundation, yes. You're in two places, Rick. So you will also, like Anita, need to be kicked out and or promoted to another room.
So let me just read through the questions.
Sorry.
Yes.
Kristen, can you put me in with the community members, please?
Linda, are you currently I'm sorry, a partnership? I didn't. Yes.
Well, then I should just be for a foundation then. Okay.
Correct.
Right. That's why you're not yet.
If you're not currently serving a 2-year term that ends in December. Yes, that's group right now. So.
Okay. And Anna's left us to be with that group. So as you can see, there are the 3 boxes and the headings are what services, resources are available for preschoolers in our county, what other resources are needed, and what is the need. And what are ideas to engage APCYF from advocacy to research to action. And you can speak to either any of those 3 steps. As you can see, you can, as I said, you can, co-sign onto something. You don't have to necessarily repeat it. You can look through everything that has been already posted here. And hopefully it'll give you a little preview of and jog your thoughts about adding something that you don't see.
Loud children coming in, but I'm trying to make room for you guys. I thought I was gonna clear the board, but y'all already started typing because you're so exceptionally advanced. So I'm gonna just make some room. And I have multiple screenshots of the previous one, and I have a screenshot of this. So I'm trying to just make some room and still keep it big enough to be read. So I apologize.
Sally, can I edit my text type?
You might not, but you can do, some people have select, I have select, but not everyone has select. So if you cannot click on your own, and I'm also moving things around.
I'm so sorry. I meant like the formatting. There it is. Okay.
Oh yeah, format.
Okay, that's what I meant. Okay.
Yes, if you want to make it a different color and make yours special.
Smaller, that'd be great.
Smaller.
I can text smaller.
Cool. Yeah, if you see it, I'm trying to switch mine to 12. I might have to tear the sheet off and start again because I think there's just too much room. Let me do not enough room is what I mean. Sorry, Siobhan.
That's all right.
Well, I think there's a lot of repeats too, right? I mean, we can build on a lot of this.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's helpful. Like the Parks and Rec activities and rec programming, I'm dying to add to that one. So.
Not just a heart. What do you want to add? What do you want to say? I can.
Full day preschools.
Yes.
I mean, I can retire now, like.
And that would be a lottery, am I incorrect?
No, right now, it's, whoever enrolls and we have a wait list. So we haven't lotteried it yet,
Okay.
but we might have to.
Okay. And there are like 4 of those, right?
Oh, I have something that's too big to put on this thing. What do I need to do? It's in the middle column. I don't know if you can
Okay.
even see it.
All right, I'm gonna take a screenshot and delete the last groups. Give me 1 second to make room for. Okay, there you go. There's room now. And I'm saving the whiteboard and
Okay, thanks.
Shirley. Neighborhood where people live. Yeah. You guys are.
Oh,
Okay.
Can you put in, Sally, in the middle? We need residential and more outpatient services for mental health and substance abuse for kids. But mainly residential is what it is. I mean, we don't have any in the county.
We have none, right? Yeah, locally. Okay.
To Anita's point, that was one of the main conclusions of the task force on homeless, the youth task force on homelessness, whatever the title was, is that there's no place for these kids.
Right. And that kind of reinforces, what was that, your point there, Rick? Activities in third places? Is that yours?
yes.
Yeah.
The idea of just having, I think we all have a sense that things could get worse, and maybe they won't. Maybe things will be fine, and we're just worrying or worry warts. But I think that our community has lost a little bit of places for teens to go, especially the ones who are not not connected or not going to school, or there is no place for them to gather. Even the mall isn't as popular as it once was. So where else do they go?
Or safe, Rick, right?
Hmm?
Or safe, right?
Well, there you go. And the other thing is we really have to push them to get out and socialize and get off their phones and electronic devices. Yeah. Everyone recognizes that as a problem, but we don't really have an alternative. Go do this instead.
And it has been impacted by COVID. I mean, I think it's just made it worse. And so, re-socialization of our youth and children is very important right now. And how do we do that successfully, right? What services are needed for that?
We're also seeing, let's just say, I don't know if this fits in here, but based on the walkouts week in Yorktown and WNL and Wakefield, there's definitely a need for counseling and safe places for victims to go to talk. And, I don't think, we have, what counseling do we really have? It doesn't meet the level of, a severe mental health crisis, but and Doorways has, what, 2 counselors, 3 counselors? Mainly for people who have, who are the children of victims. So it's a real gap.
I think maybe if I can, a way to say this too is that there's a gap. We have services that I think almost even underutilized for the most severe cases, severe delinquency, severe mental health, whatever, but not for just the average kid, not even the average kid, the below average kid who's going to be in one of those services if there's no other alternative and things get worse.
Right. We tend to provide the services when we have to react to a crisis or a extreme, acute need.
Yes.
Right.
But there are a lot of people out there that have sort of it's already come in the package of the acute need. It's the kids who might have an acute need. So there's just nowhere to go, they have nowhere to go to.
Rick, I have a question about your third places, just because of course, you know, you activated my brain. Do you, are you thinking about like, is this during the school day? Or
No.
after like OST time?
After school, weekends, and I'm thinking more of older kids too, not even
Fair
middle
point.
school.
There isn't, yeah, fair point.
Where do kids hang out these days?
Right.
Their bedrooms on their phone. Like
Are
in my house.
are they defined communities, teen-centered spaces?
Right. Or like I remember once going on a ski trip with the Artist House kids. They were with me under my strict control because they were strict back then. But parallelly, there was a Parks and Rec bus full of kids skiing with us, and it was fun because nobody knew who was who, and we were all hanging out, and it was great to see. It was great to see that. Is anyone doing that anymore? I wonder. I don't know. I haven't heard of it.
I mean, I worked at the Latin American Youth Center for a couple of years in DC, and they had a drop-in center.
Yeah.
People just came after school, you know, they did homework or they played, we had, you know, games, pool tables, we had ping pong, we had food, you know.
Yeah, Tabitha brought that up as a good model. We should all do an excursion there to see what they're doing.
Yeah.
Can I suggest about revisiting developmental assets? And ensuring that kids have some other adult in their life who they can talk to. I think, you know, along the way, the partnership has sort of, we haven't dropped developmental assets, but we have not actually been more intentional about talking about and following the whole developmental assets. That's, you know, that's certainly key for young people and adolescents and teens. And
Linda, I would agree with you. We're seeing a lot of kids that want someone to talk to, and they're, you know, they're coming out of classes just, you know, because they want to talk to somebody. So the trusted adult is very important. So if there was other members of the community that could assist, I think kids would feel like, you know, there's more than the school that can provide those trusted adults.
Or even have volunteers work with the security guys at the school. I think kids often are attracted to. There are no youth resource officers, but even community volunteers who are in the school patrolling, whatever, that would actually be very positive.
There's a initiative that Project Peace is doing.
Yes, trusted adult.
The Askable Adult campaign.
Yeah.
Training adults to be what they call askable adults, who are, you know, confidants. So that sort of gets to that. It's just at the beginning stages, though.
that's the big Project Peace push, isn't that correct, Anita?
Yeah, it's part of their prevention efforts. Yeah.
So we can see that some of this is intersectional in terms of, you know, we're talking about the childcare piece, but obviously the childcare is impacted by these other pieces when there are siblings in the home, when, you know, there are other issues that present themselves as family issues, and the resources that are available to those families for those specific kids. So that piece is certainly standing out as well.
You know, nobody has mentioned this, and I'm very concerned about, you know, a lot of people have died during COVID, and I think that there's a lot of need in the community about losing significant others. Maybe, you know, creating more grief groups for people to, you know, kind of share how they're feeling.
Sure.
I want to, if I can jump on that, I'm so sorry. My house is crazy, so apologize for the children in the background. But I think, and I don't know how widespread this is in Arlington, but there is a lot of data coming out about the number of children that are now parentless because of COVID. And I'm just wondering about these families that have to take in kids that weren't expecting it and what resources and supports might be available for them. If, you know, it's been 20 years since they have kids or never had kids, or and do they even know where to turn for those kinds of resources?
Mhm.
Sorry for editing whoever that was,
Yeah,
but I gotta make it fit.
yeah.
One of the phenomenons we have in the partnership is we are all a lot of thinkers and considerers, and we contemplate these things.
Right.
And it's not like, you know, I don't know if it's our job to find solutions. I don't know, it might be just our job to propose ideas that other people need to pick up and run with. I do think that it's important to have groups thinking about these things. The more collaborative and representative the group is, the better. Maybe we have to do a better job of communicating, giving talking points to people, helping the board set their priorities.
Yeah, and in that third box, you know, they're beginning to talk about moving from to advocacy to research to action. So there is, I think, a component of the partnership that is thinking maybe there is some action that can be taken at this point.
Yeah. And I think it's also like, it's not just, you know, in terms unidirectional. A lot of times in the past, I felt like the partnership was skiing up their priorities, to present to the school board or the county board. Maybe that's the way it was originally designed. But there has to be more sort of broad, you know, discussion and forum for the community to be made aware of issues, you know?
But we had the time on Devanchi when there were lots of community forums, as I recall.
Yeah, you know, there's so many issues going on, you know, use of narcotics among kids, you know, sexuality with kids, you know, racial issues with kids, you know, there's just like a number, you know, there's so many aspects, and we need to have, you know, the ability to tap into the knowledge of the different agencies who are deeply steeped into some of these areas, and bring it forward to the community to be aware of and to discuss, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
or have like a forum, you know, yeah, like a meeting too, like central library. They have tables to different agencies. This is how we want to work. This is what the public can do, how we can collaborate.
like the Commission on Aging does that quite a bit. You know, they host forums on, you know, transportation for seniors and Medicare for seniors and this and that, but you know, think about how many topics we have.
Does the Agency on Aging make an impact? And can they say, oh, thank goodness I went to that forum because I met 3 people who are going to help us with this issue?
No, well, they do. I mean, they ended up developing and adopting a Arlington aging plan, you know, aging in place plan. And then they go to the Northern Virginia Agency on Aging Network and they present their ideas. You know, there's follow through to different advocacy groups or legislative bodies or what have you.
Anita, when you talked about the disenfranchised parents, I think what happens when you have these community conversations is the disenfranchised parents or community members don't show up either. They tend to be more white, more retired. The same people come all the time. And in fact, most of the partnerships, community conversations had about half staff and half citizens.
Right.
So it was heavily, heavily staff-based.
Right.
We only attracted 15 citizens, 20 citizens. I think there's better ways with social media to get the word out today.
Well, there is. I mean, now it's, but we did, I mean, we've been discussing this in the county quite a bit, even with Katie. Number one, you have to provide some incentives for people to come. And if you're getting working people who are low wage earners, let's say, or held multiple jobs, they have to take time away from the job to participate. Therefore, compensation is a real issue. Childcare is a real issue. Dinner is a real issue if they're, And so, like when we did those Community Progress Network meetings, you remember, John, we had great turnout from a broad section of people because that's what we did. We gave people gift cards, we gave them dinner, and we gave them childcare. And they came and they talked. And of course, that kind of gathering is not really feasible anymore, coronavirus, but the same concepts have to apply. The only people who have a lot of time on their hands, they're typically either retired, or, and they want to volunteer, or they don't have to be working. I mean, and it's no fault of those people, but that's just the way it shakes out.
Anita, I think that's a really good point. And the way I think of it too, and there's a term for it and I always forget it, but it's hard to want to talk about something or, help create action items for something when you're already in the crisis, working with, teens and technology or, I'm busy managing it at home. I don't have time to step away and have you help give me resources to make it better. You're kind of just in crisis mode. And how do we get people who are in crisis mode to be able to kind of step to the side and be able to be engaged? I mean, even if you gave me dinner sometime, I might just be so exhausted emotionally with the topic and everything, but really we're the most important people who should be there, right?
Right.
But I did find, for example, in this Serrano crisis that we had recently, and there were a lot of undocumented and low income earners and limited English proficiency. But there are community advocates who are trusted, like Janet Valenzuela or Julio Basurto or some of the folks from Bugada. They're trusted by them to represent their interests.
Okay.
And speak to, on their behalf. And that's how we basically, were able to get to the actual families. Because families, especially if you're undocumented, you're not jumping to the front of the line to make a claim for something.
No, definitely not. Sally, you're making me dizzy with
So
all
the action, I know, right? And moving to action, your point is well taken, and it is that, we have to be creative in thinking of spaces and times that are not, convenient or more convenient for those folks who we really need to be meeting with and not taking the crisis out and doing it at a time when, it can be heard and it can be internalized and incorporated. And then hopefully reducing that crisis, right? Reducing those crises that happen and having to function within those crises. So space and time is going to be key in definitely moving to some action steps. This is a good list. This is going to be good. And we will, flush this out even more at future meetings. I think, they're going to wrap up tonight as they look at it. But I think the plan is to continue this conversation and to, really do some analyzing at some of the other meetings and really flush this out to just provide context and more information and research and anything else that needs to address what's been posted here. What else do we have? Parks and Rec.
I didn't think to write anything here. Did something?
Was the last thing you wrote, if the partnership went really big, what would we do?
I was going to write something new.
Okay, I just did a screenshot, so let me make some room.
Well, maybe it's down there. I can't read it very well.
Oh.
I was going to say parent empowerment. Figure out what we can do to help parents be more agents in their own families. I think a lot of parents, I don't know what to do. They want someone. They find themselves so desperate they got to find someone else to help them figure things out.
Right.
Other ways we could do that to help them say, "Oh no, you're in charge. You could do that." Or if you need someone to help you with that, here, go talk to this person. Or that gets into that sort of
connections. Yeah,
a regular thing that's not a therapeutic service or
sure.
Major intervention, but just someone to give you advice and help you out a little. I really like what Anita was talking about with the Serrano and the idea of these sort of community ambassadors or the go-betweens. If we recognize who those people were and sort of supported that, it could become very gossipy and political, group politics too, but that is a good way to have a voice. Somebody who can just speak on behalf of the community to help others understand.
I go back to my days in Latin America, Rick, because, you have to find people who are, when you make change in a community, you have to find people who are trusted individuals to sort of spread the word. And you have a few who maybe adopt, but they wait until, see what happens, and then the other along, but you have because they don't trust government.
Right. Well, and these are the natural supports that have developed organically that, if you can understand that and respect that, it really gives you ability to do stuff.
We're barging back in again here, but we're thinking that we may give ourselves a 5-minute bio break before we resume with, shuttling folks to the last small group. So please continue the discussion here and take a break as needed. I'll come back in 5 minutes.
Speaking of that village hive mind thing, that's something I talk about with the moms, and it's mostly moms, but some dads and uncles and grandparents at soccer. We're like, when they were little, we compared notes at the playground all the time, and that's how I figured out I wasn't losing my mind when I had a newborn. And now they're 10 and we're like, oh, we still need that, and we do it at soccer, but we have the luxury of being able to sit at soccer sometimes and do that. And I constantly or pick up at school or wherever it may be. And something that Kathy Pamphil talks about at AFAN with Kathleen Donovan is the Abuelas group. Like, she's a former principal, but she just kind of has jumped in and participates in that Abuelas group. And I thought I knew everything that went on in Arlington, but I didn't know about that. So it's so hard to make something that's organic like that institutionalized, but it is something that I also think would be amazing for more parents of littles to have.
Since I just popped in here, where are you in your conversation? What's the focus here? Sorry.
It's no different from when you were in here, Judy.
Okay.
We're still listing our
Okay.
thoughts around the three headings. We've really seen some of the intersectionality with the older youth that have come up, and we've put that in there as well. So folks are really right now, we've been focused on parent empowerment, trusted folks who are part of communities, and needing to build up that trust in order to get to those parents that are leery of the government, and not wanting to step to the front of the line.
Have you talked about how that happens, and as far as the partnership goes, the role of community members who can say we have kids, we have grandchildren, we have a different role than county staff or school staff?
We'd love to hear from you about that, Judy. We have been talking about how to move to action within the partnership. So certainly, please share.
Well, I'm just thinking it needs to be, I think we're at the point where we need to be, I don't know, clarify or define a little bit better what we would expect as far as reaching out and all of the outreach and how that what we learn, how that gets shared, how does that get shared with the partnership in a way that is comfortable for the community members who we've heard from, and do we have certain area? I mean, I would think we have to have areas of focus. Otherwise, we're going to be all over the place because we have lots of needs. And I think in the past we've used the data from the surveys to focus our priorities. But I think we still need to figure out as a group what are our priorities. And then I think the priorities change from year to year. And then that gives us all we know what we need to reach out and learn from others outside our own households, our own neighbors and neighborhoods, and
Sorry
figure
to
out how we're gonna
interrupt.
do that.
Those who have not clicked over to the room yet, go ahead and sign over. They have started already. Thank you. Go ahead, Judy. Sorry about that.
Foundation folks are welcome to.
Yeah. So anyway, I think we still need it. We still need priorities, but we need people to understand that it's not. We don't need we need to go beyond our own. It's our role and responsibility to think beyond our own experiences and our own neighborhoods. And I think everybody pretty much does on the partnership, but we just have to clarify that. But I do think it's going to be easier if people have, we have some things to work around that are the priorities that the partnership agrees are at this time, the really big important ones for this community, for families and children in our community. Sorry, rambling.
No, thank you very much for sharing. So, I guess, Judy, to your point, the flow of information that comes through the partnership and how does that go beyond the partnership, right? How does that go? How do you actionalize that within the community? How do you spark that action, right?
And bring back what you learned.
Yeah. So it's full circle. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and I want to just that last point, Judy, about bringing it back, I think there should be some formal mechanism for how do we share with others, like others being county staff, county board, staff, what we learned from the community. You know, sometimes we have a tendency to push out information about, like, let's just say the report card. And then we have great conversations with community members about that. But then what happens? We then trust those, which we should trust those community members to go and move forward and advocate to the county boards themselves with that information, is another approach that we could take their recommendations and advocate on their behalf. I think that there is a lack of advocacy on the part of partnership that I think could be more on whatever issue, whatever priority. I think we sometimes stay too neutral, and we sometimes could take what we learned and advocate to others on behalf of those who may not be doing it themselves, or to strengthen the voices of those who are doing it in another way. And so when we're talking about, I mean, even something like this, like services and resources available for preschoolers. So we have our list. We know there's other things in the community. Okay, so we'll talk to people and make our list bigger. And then what, I guess, is it's always the then what do to make things better. We have a list, then what?
And how do you go through this list and prioritize what those things we're going to make better are first, second, or last, right?
Right.
And they're all priorities, but we've got to pick how we're going to move. The other thing that I want to add to what Ann was saying is making sure that we have those variety of voices, because you know, and I'm not just saying, I'm talking about certainly our immigrant groups and those who are marginalized or not, you know, recognized within our community, but also those voices of young adults, those who may or may not have, you know, children and they're just starting out, the youth, of course, because all of them need a seat at the table to really talk through and share their perspective of what's happening, and may have new, fresh ideas as to how we can move forward. So we have to make sure we're incorporating a lot of voices of support, even within those communities that we've outlined here, the youth and the young adults, because a lot of them take on the responsibilities of these families sometimes when there are gaps in these services, right?
Well, and I would also say, as Siobhan was talking about prioritizing what we come up with, I mean, part of the challenge when the group at the table isn't diverse, even if we have heard from a lot of diverse voices, we're still prioritizing, and the people at the table are the ones doing that prioritizing. So then whose voices, they might have been on the list, but are they actually being heard and acted upon?
Right.
So that's just
That's a
another
good point.
level.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So slightly off of the topic, but not, so I'm coming from a different perspective. I'm looking at a lot of these, and I have like my little people brain on, and a lot of these seem like they were part of the CCI. And I almost hate to bring it up.
Could you share with us what the CCI is for those people who may not?
Sure. So the CCI was a child care initiative, and like its mission was really to increase access and the quality of childcare to the 0 to 5 population. And so there were an entire, and you remember,
Yeah, I remember,
of initiatives. And, you know, I mean, it would be, I say this like tentatively just because it kind of took over my life, but it did produce good stuff. For example, I don't think if we didn't have the CCI behind us that we would have redone the childcare code. I don't necessarily know that we would have full day preschool. We have one where we're looking to expand, like Parks and Rec, and that means not even a childcare subsidy, that a family could get a fee reduction of 75% off of their tuition to go to preschool from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. You know, so it's moving, it helped to move the needle forward. And
Sure.
and I know like we were looking at sick childcare coverage. We were looking at a lot of the 0 to 5 things that we're talking about now. So I just don't know what the future of that is. I know COVID and just trying to keep our heads above water still in childcare land. But, you know, I see this as being a big, you know, relook, revisit.
Well, and I think that's a great point. And I think that, you know, getting an update on the child care initiative or pressuring that initiative to reactivate would be great for the partnership. And then I also wonder, let's assume that the child care initiative does reboot, is, you know, continuing to move forward on the issues that they were working on prior to COVID. What are the issues missing from that still?
Right.
100%. I don't think that and there were things that I think worked themselves out that were part of our initiatives and our steps. I'm just thinking from like my list of things to do. They're not issues anymore, right? Like we figured it out over COVID or we figured it out, whatever, but there is a whole new bucket that we need to work on. These kids are starting from back here where, you know, they missed a whole year of like early literacy, you know, just following directions, you know, all of that, other adult support. So I think that's, you know, reevaluating, kind of taking a good hard look in is essential if that were to come back.
Well, and that reminded me of not a lot of friends, multiple people that I know who had COVID babies or babies shortly before COVID started. Like speech is a challenge that those kids they're not meeting their speech developmental milestones and they aren't interacting with people who aren't their caregivers and they aren't interacting with other kids. And so is that a new need that needs a special focus, or is that going to be worked out through some of these other programs as people continue to move forward in their new normal?
Yeah, no, that is good. What do they say? Pandemic babies are built different.
I love that.
So
I have some nieces and nephews from the pandemic baby, and I will agree. So.
I'm a new puppy, so I agree. They are a little resilient, right?
Yeah.
Well, Anne and Kimberly, I think the tough part is what's the partnership's role there? And what you're talking about, you know, to bring that to light, those kinds of things, and get others to work with us. I mean, making recommendations. I mean, how do you proceed with all these things that are continuing needs, early childhood needs, and then the new things that are out there? What's the partnership's role?
Well, I think the partnership, you know, could advocate to, you know, for maybe it's not the CCI anymore, but another group of people who are dedicated to targeting this and, you know, and providing. And I think like we did before, because I see a lot of crossover, the CCI and the partnership. I felt like we were, you know, did I see you yesterday? You know, there's a lot of us who work together in that. And so, you know, I think it would be advocating for all of those, sharing those ideas. And I do believe that some of the concerns of the partnership made their way into the CCI. Definitely. Subsidies, you know, I know that this is the group that has done subsidy letters, right? Advocacy. And help me. Or was this
Yes.
We favor subsidies.
Yes.
Oh, there's a couple. But you know, the advocacy like that. I think that would be the biggest, Judy, just to like push forward, because I think that's like the issue with the partnership in general is you've got, you know, Rick said it, you have a big group, passionate, you know, people who like to think, and we want to do everything, but we can't necessarily do everything for everybody, but we can say, here's this, and I think you guys can, you know, help us do this.
Right.
We support this group launching off.
Yeah, I agree. We can't just wait for the partnership to work through the process and make recommendations and see what the response is. And sometimes bringing these things to light, like you're saying, and finding the groups that can help do something about it, make things better.
You know, I wonder if there's this is possibly a bad idea, so please say that if it is, just a way for typically the partnership advocates to the county board once a year around budget time, and the school board as well. If there's a space for every blank, every quarter, every 2 months, to send an official letter from the partnership to schools in the county or to DHS or to whatever entity, saying, these are the issues that we've been talking about for the past 2 months. These are the issues we think you need to move forward on. Like, I don't know if that's, maybe it's not asking for money, not just,
right.
Just let them know the priority areas and making sure they're aware of them.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, sort of a heads up. I mean, county staff must do that, you know. So makes sense if a commission or partnership has that same type of information, that why would we wait? Sounds like it makes sense to me, Ian. But it couldn't be such a big thing that it consumed all the time that partnership members could be going forward and working on other things. You know, sometimes things get to be such a huge project that it takes everybody's time just putting something together for the boards or something.
Yeah. I mean, for this, and I know that Lynn and Megan and others at Planning and Development are going to be talking about this for follow-up, but it could just, you know, it could be something about, you know, as we're thinking about this issue, we remember and respect the work that the Child Care Initiative did. And we would love to see that or another similar group take on some of the new issues, or revisit the charge of the Child Care Initiative and see how it adapts to the current context or something like that. Again, I don't think this is something where the partnership does. Maybe this might be something where the partnership says, these are the issues, these are urgent. Please do something.
Right. Is that what you call like a brief? You know, do sort of send a briefing out or something to the boards?
I mean, we could, I don't think it has to be that formal even.
Yeah, just an update or something.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
We haven't really talked about the research, or at least not as I have been part of the bigger group conversation, talked about the research component of this. I don't know if that happened.
No, we really haven't talked about research at all.
And I'm guessing as Grace left us, yeah, she had to go spend time with her actual family.
I've not gone
Oh,
yet, but do you have questions?
About, well, somebody said we haven't talked about research really and what that.
We're talking about the data then, right, Anne? Data that we receive?
Data we receive or data we collect, I don't know. Research in general as a.
Yeah, I mean, research isn't, I mean, you want to talk about, so I'm sorry, I'm going to be real nitpicky. Research isn't necessarily the same as data. So I wasn't sure where we were going, but yes. But what questions do you have about data? What I don't really understand what you're asking about data.
I don't know anything about data necessarily, but just as a part of this conversation on those services, resources available for preschoolers, the other resources needed, the role that research.
Sure. On the early childhood front, there is nothing that I know of coming out of APS at the level that I am, or that I have seen at DHS. Our two big surveys, Your Voice Matters and the Virginia Youth Survey, do not go down to that level, and we don't, when we do survey parents and, sorry, my dogs have entered, apologies. And when we do go down to the level of talking to parents, we don't necessarily ask anything specifically about early childhood. That said, we are in a really great place in the country to get data from other organizations. So I actually worked in early childhood research and evaluation prior to this position. And there are tons of organizations that are located right here, consulting firms, all of that, who are really focusing on child care and early childhood stuff. And so there are definitely connections to be made. There are professional groups we can get involved with. I mean, we're in the policy center of the country, so we've got some really great connections that we can make with policy and people who are using data that is available.
Thank you. I think thank you for that information. That is great. I mean, that is something that I think, again, as we're talking about this issue of this age group, making any recommendations, choosing any needs, priorities without kind of a combination of the anecdote and stories from the ground and the data might not go about it. And so I think if there is a way to gather some of that.
And not only that, but I mean, with the people who live here, I mean, we've got some great, exceptional people who could become members of the partnership to kind of help us on that journey when positions or memberships open up. So yeah. I mean, the question that I would have back to everyone about this would be, what in early childhood are we interested in? I put in a couple notes. I mean, the organization that I used to work for kind of switched from evaluations and data collecting and making sure that early childhood was a great resource that everyone could access to more on equity and race in early childhood. And so we could go down that path and look at, who are the providers, who's not getting into services, how many children, I mean, we know this, but how many children are in family child cares, how many are being cared for by family members and they're not in a licensed anywhere, and then what does that mean? But we can look at the social emotional, we can look at, I mean, Head Start does a ton of data. There's some really great early childhood tools that I've been trained on that we can go in and look at early childhood classrooms. We can also look at, so yeah, so that's, I mean, there's a lot happening in early childhood. And again, I mean, that social emotional growth, that growth that should be happening. I do have a pandemic baby. So that social emotional growth that should be happening is certainly something to be looking into. So yeah, I mean, mine's been in childcare this whole time because I'm not that kind of mom, but so yeah, it's definitely a thing. And then I think Sally mentioned it, that just the parents having to, you know, they didn't necessarily sign up to be home with their kids this whole time. So what additional resources are we also helping them and the caregivers? So kind of love this idea. So I'm really glad I got to say something, but yeah, but it would just be like, what in early childhood would we really like to focus on? Or do we just want to do a big dive in the whole thing and then see what fits?
So Grace, have you seen the child care, not to go back to the child care initiative, but I am. Have you seen all of there's a lot of data that was pulled, like
a
lot. And it was in 2017. I actually went back and dug into some of it for a project that I was working on recently.
Yeah.
And I think those metrics, but updated would be incredibly helpful, because you could say, you know, there's only childcare for 51% of the kids.
Sure. Yeah.
0 to 5, but really, like, what is the percentage of kids who actually need childcare? Because not everyone needs it. So
right. Well, and then there's a difference of, you know, I would love to see it. Please send it to me. I'd love to dive into whatever metrics you have, but again, going down my little knowledge base here, but there's a difference between what those people who think we think they need childcare versus, oh no, it's okay, my sister's gonna watch him because she's home with her kids. And then, you know, is that considered childcare? How many people are doing that? And the other big push that I have is my children went to a family, an in-home family daycare for a long time, and I loved it, but she had a really hard time getting trainings because they were during the day, and she just can't leave her parents stranded to get these trainings. So what resources are we being able to provide to people outside of those hours? So those, yeah, sorry. I love this. So I'm here for this. Hi. Love it. Send it to me. And I love data and mixing it all. So yay. Cool.
All right. It looks like everybody's coming back in.
Yeah, I do have to jump off.
Okay.
It is bedtime
Thanks so
here.
much.
So, but thank you all so much. And yeah, please send it to me, and I'll definitely keep eyes out for emails if there's any other things that come from this. But yeah, have a good night, guys.
All right. Thanks, Grace.
Thank you.
All right. Welcome back to everybody. We're going to turn it over to Gwen and to Megan.
Thank you. I can't wait to see what's been going on in the big room, and I know we're out of time, but I do want to maybe take chair's privilege and talk for about 3 minutes. So first of all, I love the participation tonight. It looks like this room. I love the colors, the energy. I took my 5-minute break instead of reading what's on the board, but I really wanted to come back and see it. It looks really exciting. A couple announcements. First of all, because we're getting to the holidays already, the November meeting is moved up a week. So look for the email because otherwise it falls during Thanksgiving week. December, we usually have a party. We don't think this is the year for a party yet. So we might not meet at all in December. So just keep that in mind. Second, vice chair, if you have ideas or are there members who aren't here who might be interested, we would love to hear interest from folks who either haven't served or would be happy to serve starting anytime. So please spread the word, and that's something we can also spread the word by email. And then we'll pick, again, as I said at the outset, in planning and development, we'll try to figure out the structure of the November meeting because there's a lot to be done on this board in the main room. And then as we discussed in the breakout rooms, there's also follow-up and discussion about how the pieces of the partnership fit together. So there's 2 whole streams of follow-up from the basically 2 meetings that went on tonight. And that, so I think that's all the logistics. And now I'm going to make a completely off topic pivot. Let me just make sure. Yep. So here's the pivot. There's a board meeting coming up on November 14th. The meeting is to talk about, and so before I forget, to thank Katie again for coming, and Christina Diaz-Torres, who I think were even recording and making notes. And it was just such a treat to be able to listen, and maybe for Lynn as well, and not, worry about conducting. And thank you to the volunteers who kept the big room going. It was a cast that I didn't even get to see in action. So as people have to drop off. But then the very last kind of plug or announcement, and you've probably seen in your email, is Arlington, like a lot of communities and localities around the country, has this chance in a lifetime chunk of change to spend under the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, or some people just call it ARP funding. And so if you for some reason, missed the board meeting this month, there's a really great kind of discussion and elucidation of how the board is deciding to spend this money, the manager and the board, and I'm not going to get into how any of this works, which I do not understand. But to cut to the chase, there's about $7 million more bucks that haven't, first of all, November 14th will be to discuss this funding, but there's extra funding. And so this is where the partnership may come in if we choose to. One of the pitches made by 2 board members, present company included, was that one exciting idea for spending this one-time funding would be to increase spending for childcare in Arlington. Now it's one-shot funding, so it's maybe not ideal for funding new positions around the county because the funding will end. But if there's infrastructure or bonuses, and you can see, without even watching the meeting, you can see some of the ideas that came through because there's a great PowerPoint on it. But I learned a lot more, about the creativity of the ideas that are already being funded, including the basic income for a set amount of Arlington County residents. And so basic income is, you get a check for, you don't have to, qualify for special, food stamps or something based on need. It's just basic income automatically. And so if this is something that the partnership would like to do a letter of support for a particular topic, something new or something used, already proposed, including childcare, which I thought was a really exciting idea, then maybe that's something we can put a short letter together that you can let us know. So I don't want to be the last voice, so I'm going to stop talking. Anything else?
Thank you, everyone, for making it tonight and making it a successful night for all of us.
Right on
Bye.
time. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys very much. Good conversations there.
Thank you.
Thanks
Have
so
a good
much.
night.
Take care, everyone.
Have a good
Good to
one.
see you.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.